Hey everybody. So, I wanted to take a little bit of time and talk about where we are with the Sinister War story. For those of you who don't know, Nick Spencer has been writing Spider-Man for the last 3+ years. I actually started reading his run at issue 1, and I've collected every issue since. And this goes back to the very start of our channel, maybe even slightly before, or maybe in like our second episode, something like that. I picked it up really early. But anyways, I've been reading this run for 3 years now, and I've definitely had my issues with it. I'm not going to get into all that because I want to actually do a video once the run is over, and I believe it's officially over next month, and I'll dive more into it. But what I wanted to talk about is Sinister War, which is this final story arc to wrap up Spencer's run of 3 years. I just want to give my thoughts specifically on this story arc and how it's going so far. So where we're at currently is Sinister War 1, 2, and 3 has came out. I've read all 3 of those, and I've read all of the Amazing Spider-Mans. So any issue that ties in, I've got it, and I've read it. So let's talk about it for a second. Not to go into all my thoughts on the whole entire run, but I would say that this run of 3 years needs a strong finish. It needs to tie some things together, and it needs to provide some answers very badly in order to, I would say, finish off the run successfully. I think it's very important. And part of that is when you're setting things up, you need payoff, and you need payoff that is going to be satisfying. Doesn't mean you can't do what you want or follow your story or kind of follow your vision as a writer, but at the end of the day, we need to know that if we invested 3 years in reading this, that it paid off, right? So with that said, Sinister War issue 1 kind of follows Peter and Mary Jane during a movie premiere that Mary Jane is supposed to be in. We kind of get some revelations about the director of the movie. We get some setup, and you kind of it's been hinting, the ASM stories were hinting to this coming, but it's called Sinister War because you have, I want to say it's actually 6 Sinister 6 teams. They're not all Sinister 6s. You've got the Syndicate. You've got the Sinister Foes of Spider-Man, I believe it's called, and just kind of some other groups, and of course 2 or 3 iterations of the Sinister Six. So you've got all these different groups kind of headed by different Spider-Man villains, and they're all made up of classic Spider-Man villains and several villains we've kind of seen along the way. So I think this is good because it is helping kind of tie some things together. Like when the Syndicate showed up, now they're kind of playing into the end of the story. You have the Lizard showing up, and he's been spliced where it separated the Lizard from Dr. Connors, which is a tribute to one of the early issues of Spencer's run, which I thought was nice, and it kind of improves the quality of those issues because what you read in those issues is now useful here at the end. So I think that's really good. And so I thought issue 1 of Sinister War was really awesome. We have some really big plot stuff going on where we don't really know where it's headed, but it's all, of course, headed by the main character of this whole story for the last 3 years, basically. I mean, other than Spider-Man, it's Kindred. He showed up numerous times. Spoiler alerts for any of this, of course, and even to the most current comics if you haven't read them. But, we found out quite a while ago that Harry Osborn is Kindred. So he was kind of defeated, but he kind of let himself get defeated in a way where he was frozen. Norman right now is supposedly purified and clean, and so he's kind of taken watch over Kindred. Kindred has escaped, of course. So I don't want to just recap the whole plot line, but anyway, Sinister War 1 was exciting because Mephisto showed up. Again, this is a spoiler warning. So Mephisto showed up, And you realize he, Doctor Strange, are going to tie into all this, which I think is pretty neat. Or at least that's my thinking as of reading Sinister War issue 1. Got my hopes up, and I'm like, okay, maybe this will end on a strong note. Let's hope, anyways, right? So I read the following issue of Amazing Spider-Man. I want to say that might have been issue 69 or 70. And I remember my thoughts on that were, okay, I don't think we're learning too much, unless it was this issue or the next one. There is a reveal somewhere in there that I don't think had been revealed previously where, I mean, it really made it seem like Kindred is the Harry from One More Day, like a Harry that I guess perished right around then. And the Harry that we've seen recently isn't the real Harry. So that was a pretty big reveal, which I thought was neat, and honestly might make some people's theories right in retrospect, if that's what's going on, and we don't have the full answers yet. So from there, we have Sinister War issue 2. It kind of just played out like Spider-Man, getting roughed up by all the teams. He tries to fight them. He has to kind of retreat tactically over and over, but they keep finding him, keep attacking him, that sort of thing. And Sinister War 3 is basically the same thing, except the big difference there is that it does touch more on the Mephisto thing. There was a big retcon. Again, this is from the latest issue of Sinister War. No, I'm sorry. Sinister War dealt with more of Spider-Man trying to retreat and everything. The latest issue of Amazing Spider-Man, which is 72, deals with Mephisto coming in, and they kind of retcon a big part of Spider-Man history, I guess you could say. They basically make it to where Mephisto sought out Norman when Norman was down on his luck years ago. It wasn't very clear to me if he had already been Green Goblin before that, or what. So what's important to know is that Mephisto didn't change anything with regards to Norman becoming Green Goblin, to my knowledge, but Norman was down on his luck with his company and everything, and Mephisto offered him a deal. His son Harry's soul, for basically a turnaround in his luck, better business, something of that nature. And so, of course, Norman, being the awful person that he is, he took the deal. Mephisto told him he'd have no recollection of this ever happening, so he didn't have to necessarily live with it. But because we have a sort of a different Norman where he's been purified because of some events that happened way back when, I guess it's just all coming back together, and all signs point to this whole thing having something to do with the plot of One More Day. There's things going on like Peter is getting very close to Mary Jane again, or they've started that path way back when Spencer started his run. But one of the recent issues, Peter indicated he may have a ring, and so he may be thinking about proposing. And so Mephisto starts showing up, and it kind of makes you wonder, is this all to do with One More Day? Like, if Peter were to get back with Mary Jane, if they were to get married again, is it going to break the agreement that AIM made with Mephisto? So that's something I'm most interested in. That is absolutely what I want to know. Will they undo One More Day? What are the consequences of that? I think that's what's most interesting to me right now. But that's not all we've got going on. Kindred is about to reveal something about himself. I've heard one theory so far, but I don't want to go there. We've got just like a month to go when this will all wrap up. We've got 2 more Amazing Spider-Man issues and 1 more Sinister War issue. So we're going to finally get all the answers that we require. I think the big questions are, will Peter and Mary Jane get back together? Is Kindred exactly who we think? Is he like a different version of Harry? Is he just Harry? Did he lie? Is he someone else? These are the questions that I have right now. How will Mephisto play into this? Will Norman go back to being evil? There's quite a few things left to wrap up. I don't want to go into every detail on every single plot point, but there's more than that they've also got to address. So, with that said, I will say that Sinister War 1 got my issue. Sinister War issue 1, if I could speak English for a second, got my hopes up really high. I think since then the pace has definitely slowed down a little bit. I think the second round of those issues, so like the second tie-in to Sinister War ASM and Sinister War 2, were probably a little bit of a letdown. But ASM 72 and Sinister War 3, I think, were pretty good. Maybe not as good as Sinister War issue 1, but it's crunch time. It's time for answers, and we should get them very soon. I'm looking forward to just finding out and seeing what happens with this run. I think I'm really excited for the end of Sinister War, but I think I'm most excited for Amazing Spider-Man 74, because that's going to be a large issue, and I'm just curious how they're going to tie this together and wrap it all up. Really curious to see how they do that, and I'm really rooting for Spencer to stick the landing and make this run go out in a good way. Really want to end on a strong note. And also, I'm kind of hoping for maybe like a big status quo change. I know there's going to be one. I don't want to spoil this in case people haven't seen previews and stuff, but there is going to be a little bit of a shift in direction after Spider-Man 74. If you don't know what that is, you'll see soon enough. But I anticipate we'll have some changes going on until Spider-Man 900, and I have to imagine that Marvel has big plans for Spider-Man 900. I think whatever happens will be big. And 900's coming up in like maybe less than a year now, is what I'm thinking by my count. So anyways, to summarize my thoughts, I'm really hopeful about Sinister War. I'm hoping that it really comes together and does some great stuff. If it doesn't, I think it'll definitely affect how I view the whole run. And if it does stick the landing, it'll also affect how I view the whole run. And I'm really, really pulling for it, because this series, issues or not, it means a lot to me. But anyways, if you are reading Spider-Man currently and you're up to date, please comment below. Let me know your thoughts. In any predictions, I'm a big fan of predictions. So anytime you want to try to give predictions, I'm a big fan of that. But anyways, like and subscribe, comment below, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.